The problem is, now they would have to track him down, and when they did, this is what happened.
What's your name, my man?
What? Adam.
Adam? You have anything on you?
No.
Alright, come right over here.
What's wrong?
I'm just gonna pat you down, make sure you don't have any weapons. Put your hands on top of your head, okay?
What's going on?
You got a couple detectives that are coming down to talk to you.
Okay. For what?
What's that?
For what?
Just like people are wondering where Harmony is.
She's supposed to be with Crystal.
So she's supposed to be with Crystal?
Yeah.
So if she's supposed to be with Crystal, where... Help me out. If Crystal screwed up, I need to know that.
I don't know. I can't say nothing else. I have no idea. And you guys, the way you guys rolled up here on me, no,
Well,
I don't.
But the thing is, she's saying that she's supposed to be up here legal. So you can see my concern, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
like you're telling me, no, I don't have her.
Now, initially, Adam claimed
It's just that people are wondering where Harmony is. That is the voice of a Manchester police officer, and the man he is speaking to is Adam Montgomery. The date is December 31st, 2021. His 5-year-old daughter, Harmony, has been missing for 2 years, and nobody outside his immediate household has seen her alive in all that time. Now, newly obtained police body camera footage, unsealed court testimony, and a settlement agreement reached by the state of New Hampshire in 2025 reveal a story not just of one man's brutality but of a system that closed her case file and walked away. Imagine a red duffel bag placed in the trunk of a car. That bag remains there as the car is towed. It is transferred to a second vehicle. It sits on freezing tarmac overnight. It is carried into an apartment hallway and zipped inside a small cooler, where dozens of neighbors walk past it each day, none of them knowing what is inside. That bag contained the body of a 5-year-old girl. For 3 months, Adam Montgomery carried his daughter's corpse from location to location while continuing to collect her food stamps.
investigators would, of course, continue this line of questioning. However, with Adam's chopping and changing of points in his story, and also his outright avoidance to answer any of their questions, they were unfortunately finding themselves arriving at the worst possible conclusion, that Harmony was missing, or maybe even potentially dead. And the unfortunate thing here is that police officers had plenty of reason to believe that Adam was capable of murder too, because, as it turns out, Adam here had a very troubled past. So, on that note, who precisely is Adam, and why were they so suspicious of him? Born in January 1990 to his mother Melissa Newhall and his father Michael Montgomery, Adam also had a rather patchy childhood. Melissa was only 16 years old when Adam was born, so as you can imagine, things were quite difficult from the very beginning. At the age of only 8 years old in 1998, and following a paternity test, Adam then went on to live with his father, and when he was only 14 years old, the family then moved down to Florida. However, before Adam barely settled into his new childhood home, he would then have his first run-in with the law, and trust me here, it would only be the beginning of an incredibly long rap sheet. To begin with, Adam was involved in a traffic incident
Before we go deeper into what the testimony and the body camera footage actually show, make sure you are subscribed to the VerdictOrigin, because we do not just cover the story, we follow the evidence. When detectives finally located Adam Montgomery on that December afternoon, he had already perfected a script. The officer asks him directly where Harmony is and, without hesitation, he says she is supposed to be with Crystal, her mother. This is a lie. Police had just spoken to Crystal Sorey. She had not seen her daughter since a FaceTime call during Easter of 2019. Montgomery cycles through his story in real time, adding and subtracting details like a man rearranging furniture to hide a stain on the floor. He claims Crystal came with some other guy and took Harmony around Thanksgiving 2 years earlier. He cannot name the guy. He cannot name the location. He cannot explain why he never called the police when his daughter vanished. A 5-year-old girl with a rare brain condition was blind in both eyes at birth, and her father did not file a single missing person report.
was okay. But almost immediately, more cracks began to appear in his story. And when they eventually asked him when was the last time that he saw his daughter alive, well, he didn't sound too convincing either.
So she's alive.
What?
Your daughter's alive?
Yeah,
You're sure?
I'm positive.
You're like, swear on your life.
I swear on my life.
When's the last time you saw her alive?
Adam then launched into an entire story about Crystal, claiming that, apparently, around 2 years earlier, she had arrived with some other random strange man and then taken Harmony away.
Like, dude, I just want to know that she's okay, man. It's like, I didn't sleep at all last night knowing that, like, I could have a kid that's, like, dead.
Go talk to Crystal.
Why would Crystal know where she's at and not tell me that? Why would she blame you, or not blame you, but, like, say you're supposed to have that? Why would she say that? To me, it just doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
In my mind,
I know I lost my house.
The body camera records the precise moment Montgomery realizes the walls are closing. The officer asks him when he last saw her alive. Montgomery says he swears on his life she is alive. Then, when pressed, he admits he has not seen his daughter in 2 years. A father who swears his child is alive also admits under oath that he has not laid eyes on her since she was barely old enough to start school. The contradiction sits there in the open, unaddressed, until the officer delivers the line that transforms this from a welfare check into a homicide investigation.
So you haven't seen your daughter in 2 years? No. That's not concerning to you.
It is, but I mean, at the time, I had no way to get a hold of. I had no way to get a hold of Crystal. She changed her phone number. She blocked me on Facebook.
Just so I'm clear, so you're telling me that Crystal picked up Harmony 2 years ago on Thanksgiving time?
Yeah.
With some other guy?
Yeah.
Guy or girl?
I assume it was a guy.
And where did they pick her up? Was it at Guilford Street? Was it somewhere else?
No, because we were out of the house. Somewhere right by there.
Investigators would, of course, continue this line of questioning. However, with Adam's chopping and changing of points in his story, and also his outright avoidance to answer any of their questions, they were unfortunately finding themselves arriving at the worst possible conclusion, that Harmony was missing, or maybe even potentially dead. And the unfortunate thing here is that police officers had plenty of reason to believe that Adam was capable of murder too, because, as it turns out, Adam here had a very troubled past. So, on that note, who precisely is Adam, and why were they so suspicious of him? Born in January 1990 to his mother Melissa Newhall and his father Michael Montgomery, Adam also had a rather patchy childhood. Melissa was only 16 years old when Adam was born, so as you can imagine, things were quite difficult from the very beginning. At the age of only 8 years old in 1998, and following a paternity test, Adam then went on to live with his father, and when he was only 14 years old, the family then moved down to Florida. However, before Adam barely settled into his new childhood home, he would then have his first run-in with the law, and trust me here, it would only be the beginning of an incredibly long rap sheet. To begin with, Adam was involved in a traffic incident before then fleeing the scene, and after being charged with leaving the scene of an accident, he then failed to appear in court. Not once or twice, but on 3 separate occasions. He was eventually ordered to complete 50 hours of community service, and then, only 1 year later, Adam was charged with felony possession of a dangerous weapon on school grounds. Of course, after bringing a firearm into school. Now, from this point onwards, there are actually quite a few of these, so I'm just going to reel them off for you here. But on September the 7th, 2007, and at the age of 17, Adam was charged with pulling a knife on his 15-year-old girlfriend. Next, on February the 10th of 2008, Adam was suspected of shooting and killing a man inside a convenience store in Massachusetts. However,
that's not concerning to you. Montgomery's response is a mumbled deflection. He cannot answer because any honest answer would require a confession. He did not report her missing. He never followed up. He blocked Crystal on every platform and changed addresses so frequently that even Child Protective Services lost track.
However, there was one major problem here. You see, Adam was just about to finish his time behind bars, and he wasn't exactly the kind of man who was willing to give his daughter up, you could say. And as soon as he was allowed out, he wanted his daughter back. By the time Adam was released from prison, Harmony had spent 19 of the first 24 months of her life with her foster family. And although she was now finally happy, healthy, and seemed to be doing well, Adam immediately applied for visitation and eventually was allowed to see her once a month. Meanwhile, Crystal was also trying to get her life back on track. She attended parenting classes, would often visit Harmony, and in February of 2017 was also considered stable enough to regain custody. However, to make things more complex, there was also one other important condition here. With everything said and done, Crystal was not actually allowed to have any contact with Adam, and almost immediately, she decided to ignore that condition. The pair continued to meet, would speak on the phone, and would even spend several nights together. Crystal's addiction had also slowly worked its way back into her life, and so, by January of 2018, she lost her child once again. Harmony was placed back within childcare, and in February of 2019, a hearing was held to decide who would receive custody of her. You can imagine that, as part of the process, both parents were supposed to attend. However, it turns out that Crystal had also been ordered to appear at another custody hearing for another child at exactly the same time, because apparently, calendars aren't a major feature of the childcare system. She decided to attend the other one. So, when only Adam arrived, accompanied by his new wife and their 2 other children, it wasn't much of a difficult decision for the officer. Unfortunately, Adam was ultimately granted custody. Now, for a little perspective here, Harmony was 4 years old at this point, but had also only spent around 40 hours with Adam throughout her entire life. That's 40 over 35,040. So, although biologically Adam was her father, he was in every meaningful sense still practically just a stranger.
Let me tell you about the system that enabled this. Harmony was born in June 2014. She spent 19 of her first 24 months in foster care while Adam sat in prison for shooting a drug dealer in the head. When he was released, he demanded custody. A hearing was held in February 2019. Crystal failed to appear because she was ordered to attend a separate custody hearing for another child at the same time. With no competing parent in the room, Adam Montgomery, a convicted violent felon with a rap sheet stretching back to age 14, was granted full custody of a medically vulnerable child he had spent approximately 40 hours with in her entire life, 40 hours out of 35,040. The state handed him his daughter, and he drove her across state lines to Manchester, New Hampshire, where police would be called to the Guilford Street house roughly 30 times over the following year. Each time, the case was closed. Each time, the file was stamped and shelved. He admitted to his own uncle that he had bashed her around the house, and Child Services still closed the case. They visited one final time in October 2019, recorded the children as happy and healthy, and left. That was the last time anyone outside that house saw Harmony alive. By December 2, 2019, the family had been evicted. They were living in their car through a New Hampshire winter. On that morning, Harmony had a bathroom accident in the vehicle. Montgomery turned around and beat her so severely that she lost consciousness. He did not drive to a hospital. He did not call 911. He and Kayla, his wife, continued driving around Manchester and got high with their children in the back seat. Hours later, after the drugs wore off, he checked on his daughter and realized she was dead. He got out of the car, opened the trunk, and retrieved a red duffel bag.
None of those things. Instead, and according to Kayla, he got out of the car, opened the boot, and pulled out a red duffel bag. And that bag was just large enough to hide Harmony's body. They then went to stay with a friend nearby, and with Harmony's dead body inside that red duffel bag, they then moved into that friend's car, leaving their old car to be towed away. While inside that new car, Harmony's body remained inside the duffel bag.
That bag became Harmony's coffin. For the next 3 months, Montgomery carried her decomposing body with him from a friend's car to a family member's apartment to a homeless shelter, where he hid her above the ceiling tiles. He poured lime and hot water over her body in a bathroom for 5 hours, trying to make her remain small enough to fit into a smaller container. Then he placed what was left into a bag and stored it in the freezer of the pizza restaurant where he worked, beside customer orders. On March 3, 2020, at 1 o'clock in the morning, he transferred her remains into a rented U-Haul. He drove to the Tobin Bridge in Boston, failed to pay the toll 3 times, and returned hours later. He walked into the apartment and told Kayla only 2 words, "It's done." The phrase echoes through this entire case. It's done. That is what Adam Montgomery said when he disposed of his daughter's body. It's done. That is what Child Protective Services effectively said when they closed their file in October 2019. It's done. That is what the state of New Hampshire said in 2025 when it paid Crystal Sorey a $2 million settlement and asked her to agree not to hold the state legally responsible for her daughter's death. The money purchases silence, and silence is what allowed Harmony to disappear in the first place.
In 2025, the state of New Hampshire reached a $2 million settlement with Crystal. As part of the agreement, the state acknowledged serious failures in the handling of Harmony's case, but also asked Crystal to agree not to hold the state or Child Protective Services legally responsible for her daughter's death. So, yeah, I'll let you draw your own conclusions to that one, folks. To this very day, Harmony's body is still yet to be recovered, and with Adam's confession, it is likely that there.
In June 2026, the New Hampshire Supreme Court overturned Montgomery's second-degree murder conviction, ruling that the murder charge should not have been tried alongside a separate assault charge. He has been granted a new trial on the murder charge alone. Let that sink in. A man who admitted to concealing, transporting, and chemically destroying his daughter's corpse may legally be found not guilty of killing her. The state that paid $2 million to avoid accountability will now prosecute the man it failed to stop in a trial it was not supposed to need.
for Harmony's murder. By now, he was actually already serving a 32 and a 60-year sentence for being charged with 2 counts of receiving stolen property relating to a gun theft, of which both took place in 2019. The jury would hear testimonies not only from Kayla and family and friends, but also prison inmates and other people who were connected to the investigation. They would also listen to a phone call in which Adam described the search for Harmony as, quote, a waste of time, which does kind of suggest that he might know something about where her body or parts of her body are placed. With Adam being the coward that he is, he decided not to attend his own trial, presumably because facing consequences wasn't really his thing. He instead pleaded guilty to moving Harmony.
This is the ticking clock moment. If the state had acted on the uncle's report, if they had followed up when a 5-year-old vanished from a shelter, or if they had checked the food stamp records and realized the child they were paying for was already dead, how many opportunities did the system have to save Harmony Montgomery? And what does it say about that system that her father still does not have a murder conviction on his record as of today?
So, with this new information at hand, detectives decided to investigate the various crime scenes through Kayla's story. And when they returned to the family shelter and looked above those ceiling tiles, what they found thoroughly disgusted them, because not only did they find Adam's fingerprints all over those tiles, but they also found human blood and DNA. And as for that U-Haul van, they could confirm that Harmony's DNA was all over its interior. Several weeks later, detectives had completed the near impossible task of piecing together enough evidence against him, down to specific times, dates, and locations. And so, with enough on him, they now decided to charge Adam with second-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, falsifying physical evidence, and tampering with a witness. It was in February of 2024 that Adam would finally stand trial for Harmony's murder. By now, he was actually already serving a
We direct you now to 2 specific publicly available records. The first is the New Hampshire Department of Justice press release dated October 24, 2022, confirming the charges against Adam and Kayla Montgomery. The second is the 2025 settlement agreement between the state of New Hampshire and Crystal Sorey, obtained through a public records request. Pull both documents. Read them side by side. Then answer this question in the comments: if a child protection agency closes a case after a positive visit, and that child is dead within weeks, who bears the legal burden? The father who killed her, or the agency that stamped the file case closed? If you want more investigations into the cases the system buried and the documents that bring them back to light, like this video, share it, subscribe to the VerdictOrigin, and turn on notifications. We will be back.